In this video, I'm going to share with you everything I've learned riding the new Trek Fuel EX Gen 6 over the last 4 months. You'll learn who this bike is for, where the new frame design shines, and 3 things I wish I would have known when I first got the bike. Anybody interested in this new Fuel X should know these things. The Fuel EX Gen 6 is Trek's do-it-all trail bike and features an updated frame design that's a pretty big change from the previous Fuel EX generations. You have 140 millimeters of rear suspension and 150 up front. I've been riding a large of the 9.8 GX Axis the last 4 months, and frankly, I love this bike. It is so good. As a mid-season update video, I told you I'd come back with it. It's a really sick bike. Now, I obsessively did a bunch of homework and research before taking the plunge to buy this new bike. I don't get new mountain bikes every year or two. That's something I totally think about for 5 or 6 years, because let's face it, bikes are stupid expensive. Now, I've ridden the Santa Cruz Hightower prior to choosing the new Fuel EX, and I think the Hightower is kind of the closest competitor to this bike still in many ways, even though they both ride very differently. Ultimately, I chose to go with the Fuel EX because the build kit for the price was just too appetizing in comparison with the Hightower. You really have to shell out quite a bit on the Santa Cruz side to get a similar build kit, but of course there are always trade-offs. Now this bike, the Trek Fuel EX Gen 6, lands perfectly in the zone of an ultra-capable trail bike with tons of adjustability that can let you push it even into the light enduro bike territory. And what I mean by that is you have adjustable headset cups that let you slacken or steepen your head tube angle by 1 degree in either direction. I'm running mine in the standard 64.5 degree setting because I'm running the low setting on the minnow link in the back. In addition to the minnow link, you have a progressivity bolt in the rear that lets you change the leverage curve of the rear shock. And you can even run a coil shock on this bike, so if you did want to push it into the more enduro realm, you can do that. And I've seen a few riders this year at bike parks going with this option for this bike. Speaking of which, one of the 3 things that I wish I would have known when I first got the bike is that progressive option. I highly recommend running the bike in the more progressive setting. The moment I switched to this, the bike felt so much better. Off big hits, on rough descents, and just overall handling felt substantially better. Unless you're really pushing this bike on a lot of cross-country terrain, I would tell almost anyone, set it in the more progressive setting first. Try it out, see how you like it, because in general, I think it makes the profile of this bike so much more fun to ride. I don't know how or why, but it just feels a lot better. Now, even though you can put a coil on it, push it into the more enduro territory, you have a really nice, steep 77.2 degree seat tube angle, which allows your climbing position to feel excellent. This bike has great anti-squat. It climbs quite well for a trail bike that feels as burly as it is. I've changed only a couple of things on the bike so far. I immediately threw on a 2.5 Assegai double down max grip on the front tire and a 2.5 Minion DHF double down max Terra on the rear. Now, the reason I did this is the tires that come stock with this bike are not up to the capabilities of what this bike can do. It'd be the #1 upgrade if you did buy this bike is throw some new tires on it. I like the 2.5s. I'm not a huge fan of the 2.6s unless you're really in some hard-packed terrain, and it completely changed the profile of the bike. It felt a whole lot better. Now, this also relates to one of the 3 things I wish I would have known when I got the bike, and that is if you're throwing on new tires on these Bontrager Line Elite 30 wheels, which are included across multiple of the specs for the Fuel EX, the new one, they put this kind of plastic rim tape around the rims, okay? And they're set up tubeless, but it's different than any tubeless rim tape I've used because that plastic kind of covers up the groove that your tires can slot into when you're trying to seat a new tire on your rim. And this plastic rim tape makes it a pain if you are trying to get on a tight fitting tire. I had to take it actually to my local shop. I've never had issues getting a double down on a rim before. And talking with them, they're an actual Trek dealership. Same thing. They mentioned retape your rims. If you're going to be swapping tires frequently, retaping your rims to a more traditional rim tape instead of that kind of plastic style that Bontrager uses will help immensely because it took like 3 people from my local shop struggling with it over a trash can to get it on. Just food for thought, it is worth retaping those rims if you are going to be swapping tires in and out. I've also swapped onto the bike my favorite grips of all time, Brendog's DMR Death Grips. These have a mix of waffle print on the back and the really cool print for your thumbs. I love these grips. Nothing against the default grips that come with the bike, but I can't say enough good things about the Death Grips. They're so nice. Now, what I've learned so far in 4 months is that this is one of the best trail bikes on the market today. And you really can't go wrong if you're picking it up, especially if you're looking for a capable, do-it-all bike. I've taken it on bike park laps, really big trail rides, mellow after-work shreds, and it literally just gobbles everything up. It can take a while to get comfortable on a new bike, but this geometry is just so chill. It inspired confidence pretty early. It was not one of those bikes that had a long learning curve. It also corners like a beast. Once I got into the groove with this bike, like a month or 2 into it, you can slash corners and really ride the edge so confidently. I love cornering on this thing. It's really hard to believe that the back end is just 140 mils. Honestly, the bike, it just wants to eat up challenging, chunky terrain. Most of the footage you're gonna see is not even remotely close to the stuff that this bike wants to be tackling on a regular basis. Earlier this year, I felt like the bike felt pretty hefty in the rear end, like kind of heavy, and I noted that I would need to get stronger to really put the bike through its paces. I don't feel that way anymore. It does not feel that hefty or big. It really might be down to me having a full season and building up my strength, but now the bike feels really playful and snappy and stiff. And I'm happy that it's stiff. I used to race bikes. I did Super D for a number of years and then cross country for a lot of years. And this bike is so nice and snappy, and I love it. Does come across as a very stable, stiff platform. Now, the bike could be a bit long for some riders. And if you want something leaning a little more on the cross country side, I will say this bike is beefy. It's built for tackling literally everything. If you are tackling everything and potentially having the bike maybe drop or crashing from time and time again, I would highly recommend getting Ride Wrap because this thing kind of scratches easily. And by the way, if you're enjoying the video, please drop a like and subscribe for more. Now, some things I don't love about the Fuel EX Gen 6, the handlebars. You've got the integrated stem bar combo here on the RSL bars, and it's either I love it or hate it kind of thing. On the large frame size, these bars are 820 mil wide. Okay, I like big handlebars. I love gigantic handlebars. 820 is ridiculous. I'm 6'2". I'm still not sold on them. I'm gonna keep riding them. I'm so torn because I could obviously cut the bars down, but at the same time, I really miss the adjustability of swapping out stems, changing bars, changing the roll, and you can't do that. And man, I don't know about the visuals. It sounds silly, but it just looks a little too cross-country, I think, for my taste. But you let me know. Do you like the integrated bar stem combo? Or do you prefer the more traditional setup? Outside of that, I have no complaints. This is such a sick trail bike. And the bottom line for who this bike is for, well, if you're a trail rider who's looking to push your limits, take it to the bike park a few days of the year. Go on epic large rides, or just looking for a beast after work shredder. This bike can do it all. And it has the adjustability to really let you push it a little further into like long travel bike territory, or steepen the angles up, throw on some lighter tires for that more XC feeling. But to be clear though, I don't think this bike is XC. It won't be. It's way too capable. It's amazing on steep, aggressive, nasty terrain. I've had a few bike park days with this bike this year, and I like it. I've tried to take it on ultra chunky rough stuff, and what I would say is if I'm a full-time bike park rider, if that's the majority of your riding, I would still look at a more traditional enduro bike over this thing. For smaller riders, I've seen like mediums and smalls with a coil on it doing really well at the bike park. That makes a ton of sense. But if you are mainly going to be doing shuttle stuff, probably bump up into just something a little beefier. It's kind of overkill for a lot of trail riding, which is amazing in the direction that trail bikes are going. It climbs decently. I really like this thing. For most of the terrain I ride, I could probably get away with a hardtail most of the time. But I needed a one-stop shop. I'm not gonna own a different bike for the bike park or whatever. So for me, the Fuel EX is perfect and pretty future-proof. I don't know what the lineup of 2024 bikes will look like, but I imagine that the Fuel EX Gen 6 is still going to be a standout amongst its peers. Now, if you want to buy anything that you saw in this video, like the tires or the grips, and you want to support the channel, you can check out my links in the description to Jensen USA. They didn't sponsor this video. I am an affiliate, and it does help the channel. With all that said, if you enjoyed this video, you might like my first impressions video of the Trek Fuel EX Gen 6, and you can click on that right here. Have a good rest of the day, and we'll see you again very soon.